portion of the Weedhopper flight instruction program consists of learning how to properly taxi and ground handle the Weedhopper. The tricycle landing gear and steerable nose wheel on the Weedhopper combine to make this very easy to learn. Students generally spend about an hour learning how to taxi the airplane. Now, this is accomplished by first throttling up the airplane so that you're going down the strip at perhaps 5 miles an hour, and then beginning to steer back and forth with the nose wheel. Very gentle S-turns down the strip. You must apply some forward pressure on the control stick to keep that nose wheel down. As you continue doing this, you'll build a bit more speed. Again, you'll be doing the S-turns until you're very comfortable with the aircraft. The low center of gravity on the Weedhopper means that you can steer the airplane quite aggressively. Now, at this point, you're going to want to experiment with applying a bit more throttle back and forth, up and down with the throttle, feeling for the acceleration that the aircraft is capable of. Now, in the next portion of your training, you're going to actually lift the nose up off the strip and get a feeling for how the airplane handles when the nose wheel is up off the ground. Now you'll be steering with the rudder, so you'll be building a bit more speed, and as the nose wheel comes up, you'll be steering back and forth with the rudder in the same way you were with the nose wheel. Now, to do this, you will first apply full back pressure on the stick, full up on the elevator, and then throttle up the aircraft until the nose wheel actually lifts off. Keep the nose wheel off by jockeying the throttle up or down, depending on what input is required. Then, as you can see, you can actually learn to fly the airplane right on the ground. You can see that you can apply rudder and elevator input, and the plane will respond. Learn to fly it in a nose-high attitude. You can see how much control input is being placed into the aircraft. Going away, full up elevator, nose comes up, jockeying the throttle. Keep the nose wheel up and actually steer the airplane S-turns down the strip with the rudder. The airplane flies in exactly the same way. And speaking of flying, we're about to make our first short hop. Now, to do this, as you make your takeoff roll, you will apply full throttle, and then don't worry about the throttle anymore. We're done with that. Now we're coming down the strip. Full throttle, pull the nose up, the airplane flies at about 25 miles an hour. Then at that point, throttle the airplane back, keep it level, and it will settle in on its own. Again, another short hop, throttle back, settle in. You don't have to do anything at this point. Just be sure that you don't get the nose angle too high. Come up, off, level off very quickly, throttle down, and the airplane will settle in on its own. Again, the airplane reaches approximately 25 miles an hour. Pull back on the stick. It will fly. Level off, chop the throttle, let it settle in. Steer with the nose wheel and the rudder. Up, throttle back, just like tying your shoes. Okay, now we're going to do a bit longer hop this time. We're going to get the airplane up off the strip 3 or 4 feet, level off, and keep it flying. Okay, keep it flying using the elevator and a little bit of rudder input. Keep it up off the strip. Keep your throttle setting, just about full throttle. Throttle back to settle back in. Very simple. Again, steering now with the nose wheel. And you're getting there. A little rough ride there. That's John Chotia, the creator of Weedhopper, showing us how it's done. Okay. Going away, pull it up. Okay, see how much input you can provide to the airplane. Don't be afraid of it. Be aggressive on those controls. See what they'll do. You can use the elevator to keep the airplane level. All right, your first longer hop, full throttle, raising the nose up. You're going to rotate. A little bit of right rudder to correct. Flying straight down the strip, 3 or 4 feet off. Very smooth. Try and keep it smooth, settle back in. When you throttle the airplane down, it'll land all by itself at that low an altitude. Okay, we're going to fly up, get a little bit of altitude now. A little bit of a correction. Flying it straight down the strip. In control, very smooth. Concentrate on keeping it smooth, stay in control. And back down. Don't worry if you're a little bit offline. Just go ahead and set the airplane down. It's very stable. You can correct with the nose wheel and rudder if it's offline. Up. Building a little altitude now, leveling off. Watch the wings level off when he drops the throttle. There it is. A little right rudder to compensate. Settling back in. And there's the landing right there. Okay, now we're going to go up and practice some S-turns. We're going to get up about 20 to maybe 50 feet. And we're going to do some S-turns. Full throttle now. Reaching your takeoff speed of 25 miles an hour. Rotating. Okay, now a gentle turn to the right. Now back to the left. You're going to have to apply opposite rudder once you induce the turn to bring it back. You have to anticipate it when it comes back also. Very gentle. Doesn't take much control input to initiate these S-turns. Okay, and then decrease the throttle and set it back down again. Again, some S-turns down, rotate, little left rudder, compensating now with right. It's coming back. Now left rudder again. Okay, and then chop the throttle, settle it back in again. Very simple, very smooth. Remember, don't let that nose angle get up too high. Keep it level as you're doing these S-turns. Now we're going to climb out and get a little bit of altitude this time. Practicing these takeoff runs. Very good aggressive takeoff run. Make sure you've got plenty of speed. Coming up, getting up about 50 feet or so, throttling back, leveling it off, letting the airplane settle back in, and then applying a little bit of back pressure right when you get down within about 5 feet, and the airplane's going to settle right in on you. Steering with the nose gear and the rudder once you get back on the ground. Very easy. You'll be surprised. Now here's an example of coming off in a little bit of a crosswind, a little bit of turbulence. Watch what the airplane does. Okay, there it is. A little bit of a crosswind from the left. The airplane naturally crabs into the wind. You can correct with the rudder. You can see the rudder operating there. A little turbulence there. Throttling back. Correcting with rudder, keeping the wings level, letting the airplane settle back in. You can see that the airplane handled that very well. Okay, you're just about ready to graduate now. Here's our first flight around the pattern. We're going to go up, do 2 180s, and come back to the strip. A good aggressive takeoff roll, climbing out, full throttle. Watch the nose angle. Watch the airspeed indicator. Don't let it drop below 25 miles an hour. You'll be compensating with the rudder for any turbulence that you might have. This particular flight, there is some turbulence. You'll see some corrections with the rudder to keep the wings level. Okay, there's a little right there, a bump over the right wing, right rudder to compensate. Now the pilot will be initiating a very gradual, very shallow turn to the left, 180 degrees. As you can see, the wings are not banking more than about 5 degrees. Full throttle all the way, climbing out. At this point, you'll be watching that airspeed indicator, watching the attitude of the airplane, keeping the nose angle correct, the wings as level as you possibly can. Keep it smooth. At this point, you've now completed your 180 degree turn, and you're setting up for your final approach. Now you'll see the pilot throttle back and begin a descent back to the strip very shortly now. Okay, initiating the left turn. Throttling back to lose altitude. There it is. Very shallow turn. You're going to want to straighten out and get really set up on that strip before you come back in. Now, when we say throttle back, we mean throttle back to about 50% of your available power. You'll need to keep some power on as you make your approach. At this point, you're lining up with the runway, making any corrections with rudder to compensate, keep the wings level, straight pattern, throttling back, flaring back now, pulling back on the stick, chop the throttle, and you're going to settle right in. Okay, there you have it. You've made your first trip around the pattern. Congratulations. Okay, now we're up and flying. I want to show you some power on and power off stalls. At this point, you've progressed. You've done several trips up around the pattern, and you're now ready to experience a stall in the airplane. Full power, pulling the nose back up, back up, back up, until it breaks. Right there, that's a power-on stall. It's very simple to recover from. The airplane will pull out of it just all by itself. Just remember that when the nose drops, let it pick up airspeed. Don't pull back on the elevator until the aircraft has picked up the speed. Here's another one going away. Watch the brake. Right there's the stall. You can see the aircraft doesn't lose more than about 15 feet of altitude. Stalls in the Weedhopper are very gentle, very predictable. The aircraft does not have a tendency to slide off on one wing or the other, and they're very easily recovered from. Here's an example of how a beginning pilot, will often get into trouble. This is doing a series of climbing turns and wingovers, very mild wingovers. Now the pilot is in a steady climb out, and this is how a beginning pilot usually experiences his first stall. Up he goes, and suddenly that nose will drop. Boom, right there. Okay, you see how easily the airplane recovers from it. Just remember that when the nose drops through, let the aircraft pick up speed, then pull back on the elevator, level off, watch your airspeed indicator. You should be flying straight and level at about 30 miles an hour. In the Weedhopper, there's usually a slight buffet just before the stall occurs. Okay, now we're going to show you a power-off stall. Throttle back, watch the brake. Okay, there it is. As you can see, it's not much more radical than the power-on stall. Very easily recovered from. Just remember, do not pull back on the stick until the aircraft regains its speed. Okay, we'll show you another power-off stall. These become a bit more radical, but you can see that the aircraft recovers very well. Here's a very radical power-off stall. You can see that the airplane recovers very quickly. Nose high attitude, throttle back, pulling back on the stick. You can see the airplane really slows down. Then it drops through. You can see that the aircraft will recover without the addition of power. Very predictable stall characteristics in the Weedhopper. The wings do not have a tendency to drop. You want to watch for that, though. And we'll show you one more power-off stall here. Okay, here we come. Watch the throttle back, watch the nose angle, and watch the aircraft brake. There it is. Now you're flying again. Full throttle. You can see that these are very nerve-wracking exercises. The pilot is obviously quite distraught. So now you're a graduate of the Weedhopper flight instruction program, and you can fly away. Congratulations.